Ladies and fiction and men, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and if you're new, hi, I'm Kit. If you see me looking down, that's because I have my phone with me, and that's where all my stats for 2025 is. So, normally, at the end of every year, I just do the December read and wrap up, and that's it. And I thought, since I now have two phones because I have my new one, which is a phone, there's not much to say about it. It's a Scody. Yeah, there's not much to say about it. My old phone, which is the one I'm currently filming on, is a Moto E15, and because this one apparently doesn't have that good of a camera, I'm just going to carry on filming on this one. Anyway, before I actually get into what books I read in December, let's talk about my 2025 reading stats. So the app I use to track my reading, can you see it? No, wait. Give me a sec. There you go. Is Fable. And this is what the general user face looks like. I love it, and I don't support Amazon. And I try my best not to, even though all my books are sold through Kindle Direct Publishing, and that's because it is just the easiest way for me to do it. But that also means I can no longer sell my ebooks on that due to their supporting of AI. I'm not going to get into that, but if you guys want a video, do let me know. Anyway, on Fable, you can find out what your reader summary is, essentially. Your reading personality is, and I've got Mysterious Puzzler. From complex mysteries to dark, twisty plots, your reading list is thrilling. You have a flair for finding puzzles and complexities in your stories, and I quite like that. And I feel like towards the end of the year, I was less in a romance mood, and I actually realised it earlier. I think reading romance has kind of ruined reading for me. This is just obviously my opinion, and I might be making a Instagram video on that and not a full-fledged YouTube video, because my videos are planned this year all the way to December. So yeah, the total books I read was 62, and my goal was only 50. So I beat my goal by 12 books, which is really, really good. So this year I believe I set my goal to 55, even though my reading journal I set it to 50, but that's because I made that video when it wasn't the end of the year yet. My best reading streak is 286 days. My average rating is 4 stars. So in January I read 2, in February I read 6, in March I read 7, in April I read 4, in May I read 5, June I think was my most busiest month reading wise. I read 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh my god, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I believe 9. I could be wrong. July and August I both read one book. In September I read 5. In October I read 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. Oh, in June I read 10. In October I read 9. In November I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. And in December I also read 7. My most read genres were, no surprise, romance with 34 books, followed by YA with 17, fantasy with 14, fiction with 8, and thrillers with 4 books. My average rating is 4 stars. That's what that table looks like. My most read authors in 2025. At number 1 it's Anna Huang with 7 books. Then it's Alice Oseman with 5. Sierra Simone with 4, because I read the pre-series and I love it. I think there's a quote in it which is, I love you like everything, or I love you more than anything. Something like that, and I want it tattooed on my body. Even though that book isn't actually my favourite. But that's my favourite quote from the whole series. And then I read 3 Elizabeth Limbs, 3 Nefessa Allens, 2 Harley LaRue, because I read the Losers Duet, 2 Leigh Bardugo, because I finished the Shadow and Bone trilogy, and I read the first Shadow and Bone book 2 years ago, and 2 Tessa Bailey, because I read the It Happened One Summer series. Now on to what I read in December. I have to go into a different app because I use Fable to track my rating and like what books I've read. However, I also use Notion to track like the content and just other general stuff. So let's just go. And this is my Notion for books I've read page anyway. 2025. Also, this is the first video I'm filming in 2026 because I pre-filmed a bunch and I'm going to try and keep the momentum up and pre-film a bunch of videos. I think I'm working on my February videos. So yeah. First book I read in December was Tender is the Flesh by Orchid. Oh my god, if I mispronounce any of these names, I do apologise. Augustina Bastamina, I think, and I rated it 2.5 out of 5 stars. It did make me cry. It's not a new favourite. I read it in paperback. I believe it's a genre. No, it's a genre. Yes. The genre is horror, and there was a scene, trigger warning for animal cruelty and abuse and animal death in this book. But there was a scene towards the end to do with teenagers and puppies. And I felt like that scene was unnecessary. And I'm a fan of horror, and my opinion is, in a horror film, animal deaths are always unnecessary. I will literally stop watching a horror film because there's an animal death. Even if I don't cry, I just think animal cruelty is just unnecessary. Give me 1 second, my dog wants to get on my bed. Wanna get up, bud? There you go, buddy. Yeah, so there was animal cruelty towards puppies, and I just felt this book was very vulgar and was just very graphic for no reason. Yes, it's a horror, but I felt like the author was just making it graphic for the sake of shocking the reader and not to add anything to the plot. There we go. And then I listened to Hunting for Hunter by Hannah Harp. Rated it 3 out of 5 stars. Did not make me cry. It isn't a new favourite. It's a dark romance because I do love me some dark romance. And I remember thinking with this book, it was okay. And the way the author, who I do follow, the way she advertised her books is she advertised heavily that a man, I can't remember, I think he's called Cade, is in love with the reader because he talks directly to him. However, this book follows him and his sister and her love interest, who is a demon. I believe book 2 focuses more on Cade's relationship with the reader, whereas book 1 is the sister, and I've forgotten her name. And I just felt very let down in this book, and I honestly did not want to read the next book. However, she did what I hate. Oh my god, how do I English? She did what I hate. Oh my god. She ended the book in a way that I hate, which is a cliffhanger. And it's the same thing with shows and films. There's nothing more I hate other than animal cruelty and unnecessary scenes is a cliffhanger. Because now I feel like I have to read the second book just to find out what happens. And it just irked me. I felt my phone shaking then. The next book I read was actually a classic, which was The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson, and that's because towards the end of the year I wanted to read short books because, like everyone else, I'm like, I want to finish my reading goal, but I think I had already finished at this point. So I was just like, I just want short books. And however, I don't own that many short books, so I put Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I rated it 2 out of 5 stars. Didn't make me cry, not a new favourite. It's a hardback, and it's technically a sci-fi fantasy. I actually have it on here, because this is my classic shelf. This is the edition I have. I can't remember if I was given it or if I bought it. It's tiny. However, I will. No, my Frankenstein. As you can, I don't know how well you can see this shelf here. As you can tell, Frankenstein is my favourite classic. I have 4 editions. And I got my mum to get my nephew Frankenstein for Christmas because he asked me he wants to get into reading and wants to start with classics. I wanted to read The Handmaid's Tale. And I was like, no, I haven't read it and I know it's classic. And obviously, without going into too much detail, he's dyslexic, and I was like, that's not a good one to start with. And I was like, Frankenstein, it's an easy classic to read and it's very beautiful. Anyway, moving on, because I can talk about Frankenstein all day. Next book I read was Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo. It was 5 out of 5 stars. It was an amazing way to finish the series. It made me cry, not once, but twice. It's not a new favourite. I read it as a paperback, and it is a fantasy. If you want to know my exact thoughts, one of my previous videos is for reading vlog for it. Also, Nikolai reminded me of Howl. So now, all I'm going to pitch in now, because I'm eventually going to get to Shadow and Bone, because I can now watch it. However, I am probably going to read at least book 1 of the 6 of Close duology before I watch Shadow and Bone, because I know the Close are in it. Also, fun fact, my book, The Princess and Her Guard, which is my fantasy debut, and just my debut overall, there's a character in it called Milo, who's actually named after a character from the Shadow and Bone show, and I haven't seen it. There's a goat in that show called Milo, and I don't know why. I saw a clip of the goat, Milo, and I was like, I like that name. I took it. Bit of behind the scenes knowledge for you. And then, coincidentally, my second book, The Bucket List, there's a character called Lee, who's named after Leigh Bardugo. I don't know why I did that. However, I think that's just going to be a thing in my books now. At least one character in some way is going to be named after someone or something in the writing world. What's my third book? So it's... Oh, okay, yeah, I was a bit confused. My next book that I'm writing now, there's a character in it. I believe her last name is Shelley, who's named after Mary Shelley, obviously. I had to. It's Frankenstein me telling. Anyway, moving on. Day of the Accident by Nuala Elwood. 3 out of 5 stars. It's not a new favourite. Did not make me cry. I read it as a paperback and it's a thriller. I can't exactly remember what I thought of this book. I know there's a twist at the end, which I didn't get. However, I guessed one twist in the book. Also, all I remember during this book is I was watching a lot of the Pastel Bookshelf. I discovered her channel, and if I've caught up on YouTube and I'm not watching Batman, as in Batman for animated series, I am watching the Pastel Bookshelf, and I just think she's really funny. Then the second to last book I really didn't bloody enjoy, and that's 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turnton. 1.5 out of 5 stars, and I believe this is the lowest I have ever rated a book without DNFing it, and I kind of wish I did. Didn't make me cry, not a new favourite. It was paperback, it's a mystery, and it was just very bloody terrible. Hold on, let me get my review. Let me just get my review up, because I'm trying to review my books better. here we are. I got it. So, one in kind of long review. Also on Fable you can put tags, and I put it as flat and one-dimensional. So if that tells you what I thought of this book, I don't know what will. Anyway, so I finished this book and I ended up rating it 1.5 stars. And if I'm being brutally honest, there was nothing I liked about this book. To me, the characters were very one-dimensional, and that is saying something since the main character spent every day in a different body. So you would think they would have more than just annoying as a personality trait. I also felt as if the book couldn't make up its mind on what genre it was. In the beginning, it was a thriller, and in the middle it was a mystery, and ended as a romance. Also, I had not super high expectations, but if you know me, one of my top horror films / one of my favourite films is called Remember, and it's a Japanese horror film set in a school that follows a bunch of students who repeat the same night over and over again while solving a mystery, which sounds very similar to The Seven Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, and this was a flop. It was absolutely terrible. Like, I do not recommend this book. If there was one book that I could bury, not burn, because I would never burn a book unless you count my old school books. Like, if there was one book I could, no offense with the author, and also I know this is a bit harsh, but other than not including my DNS, if there was one book I could just scrap it, get rid of it, it would be this one. Anyway, the last book I read totally redeemed my reading in December, and that is Hook, Line and Sinker by Tessa Bailey, and that is 4.5 out of 5 stars. So I did tear up, but none fell, and they were very, very close. It's not a new favourite. It was a paperback, and it's a romance. However, saying that, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Sorry, my phone went dark, and I'm hoping it didn't affect the footage. But yes, that is my reading wrap up for 2025, and obviously December.